morning, everyone. Really delighted to be here today. It's a huge pleasure to be amongst all of you here. I've been here for 3 days now. It's just been absolutely brilliant. The energy and the enthusiasm is just so infectious over here. It's just been great. And I'm really excited to take you through the journey of Games 24/7. And of course, we have a special guest here today. I will, introduce him as well. And basically, we'll have conversation with him in order to get to know more about his journey and the whole experience of, building a unicorn. And the conversations here, I'm sure, will have great insights for you, right, in whatever stage of career you might be in right now. But before I do that, I would actually want to hear from you first, know your audience, as they say. So, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. Let's, with a show of hands. So, like first up, I guess this is just to establish, the sample set. So, how many of you know how to put up your hands? Please raise your hands. All right, that's good. That's cool. That's nice. We have a good sample set here. Great. All right, first question. How many of you, this is the Game Developers Conference, right? So how many of you have been involved in developing a game? Please raise your hand. That's awesome. That's a great turnout. Great, cool. And how many of you are students, aspiring to be, have careers in gaming? That's great. Welcome. This is one of the most lucrative careers, I would say, in the sense that it gives you a lot of sense of fulfillment. So I think you're in the right place. I hope that you're able to figure out what you want to do in gaming, but it's an excellent field to be in. All right, for those who have actually been involved in developing games, here's a tougher question, right? Of all those who have been involved in developing games, how many of you have had games that have earned enough revenue to have broken even? Please raise your hands. Right, so it's tough. Whoever has raised your hands, applauds to you, man. Like it's tough, and really kudos and congratulations to have done that. But I think that's what it is, right? Like you have to stick in there to make it happen, but eventually you will get there. All right. Final question: how many of you believe that sooner or later India will take the lead in gaming? Please raise your hands. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Excellent. That's great. This is exactly what we believe in too. In fact, it is this belief and passion that has kept us going. So the journey of Games 24/7 started in 2006 with a vision of creating a platform that can appeal to every online gamer in the country. And before I actually introduce you to the man behind the journey, let me first give you a short glimpse of what he has spearheaded in building, right? So we have a video here. Can we please play the video?
Growing Indian online gaming scenario has my attention now, more than ever.
All right, thank you. I hope that gives you a great glimpse, right? Thank you. It has been almost 16 years since we started this journey. We are really proud of what we have been able to achieve. But I would also want to take this opportunity to highlight you games, right? So of course, Games 24/7 has been primarily known for its skill gaming products, Rummy Circle and My 11 Circle. But we also have U Games, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Games 24/7, with a vision of creating innovative, free-to-play games for casual games for a global audience. And just wanted to give you a bit more idea about U-Games. So we have another video for that. Can you please play that? Thank you. That's a glimpse of Games 24/7. So thank you for your patience. Now I guess enough of what. Let's get on to the how. So I would take great pleasure in inviting our special guest today, Dr. Trivikraman Thampy. He is the co-CEO and co-founder of Games 24/7. Actually, Thampy, as he's fondly known, that's how I usually refer, call him as well. He has, he's an alumnus of Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and he has done his PhD in economics from the New York University. Thampy has really spearheaded the strategic thinking and the decision making of the company, including several successful product releases, marketing campaigns, and of course leading the company through various rounds of funding, including the latest one led by Malabar Investment, which valued the company at $2.5 billion and actually gave us that that unicorn status. Thampy has also really helped focus the company's attention on children's welfare. And it's an issue that is very close to the heart of the founders. In fact, he serves on the International Advisory Board of the Kailash Satyarthi Children's Foundation, which is the eponymous foundation of the Nobel Peace Laureate, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi. So without further ado, I will call Thampy up on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it there if that's okay. So how has it been for you so far?
Oh man, it's incredible. Can everybody hear me? I don't know.
Is the mic on?
Are you able to hear me?
Okay.
No, I was just saying this is absolutely incredible. Like when we started our journey. By the way, before I do that, Avin said the man behind all of this. I want to make a couple of corrections to that. One, one of my closest friends and co-founding partners, Bhavin Pandya. So he's obviously also the man behind all of this. And even more importantly, as me and Bhavin always say in our company, amazing companies are built by amazing teams, and really everything that we have built today, a glimpse of which you got on the screen up here is kudos and testament to the very talented, incredible team that we have managed to assimilate. So I just wanted to,
all right, stand corrected.
Add to that. On what's happening in India with gaming and what I'm seeing here and outside over the last few days, I mean, it's just, I don't think me and Bhavin could have imagined this 16 years ago when we started Games 24/7. It's just, it's inspiring for me. It's humbling. It's just awesome what's happening in the Indian gaming space. I look behind to see how many people raised their hands when Avin asked how many of you are developing games, and there were quite a lot. And then Avin asked how many of you have made enough money to break even, and then obviously a very few went up. But that's fine. These are early stages. It takes time to succeed. It takes perseverance. The most incredible thing is that there's just so much interest in this space. There's a massive amount of potential. I mean, I always tell this to investors when I speak to them that, 15 years ago, when we started this journey, we would tell investors, in 10, 15 years from now, India will be where China was back then. And we were more than right. And we tell the same thing to investors today. By the way, nobody back then believed us that India would become a multi-billion-dollar gaming market. And today we see the same trend lines. Our view is today India is a $2.5 billion market. By 2030, it's a $20 to $30 billion market. So all I'd say is keep plugging away, like keep the enthusiasm going, keep the energy going. And this is a huge opportunity in the Indian space right now.
Yep, absolutely. And I guess, Thampy, everyone here is actually then, I'm sure even me, right, like all of us, really keen to hear about your journey, right? Because, your journey, you started from engineering to economics and then setting up the most valuable multi-gaming platform in the country, right? Like, how did it all start?
Yeah, I mean, it is an unusual journey. I mean, the one thing I've always tried to do after engineering, the reason I went into engineering is because there's two reasons. One, my parents wanted me to do that, and two, everybody around me was doing that. But once I was in engineering, like I think since then, for the most part, I've followed my heart. What do I really enjoy? Not what's going to make me more money, not what's going to bring me fame, but what do I really enjoy? I've tried to follow my heart. When I was in engineering, I fell in love with economics. Still love the subject. In fact, a lot of what I've learned in economics, particularly in behavioral economics, has helped us a lot in our business. And then when I went over to study economics, I went to NYU to study economics, which is where I met Bhavin. It was interesting how we met. I think both of us, for very different reasons, were very disillusioned with academic economics. I went to economics with a lot of passion. I wanted to solve, I'm not sure how many of you here follow monetary policy, fiscal policy, but I had a lot of interest in it. I wanted to solve real-world practical problems. Bhavin came with a very kindred spirit and heart and wanted to solve the world's poverty problem. And we came in and started studying very, very academic theoretical courses, and both of us realized this is not what we want to be doing. And what did we end up doing? We ended up playing games in the computer lab. Different games. Bhavin used to play different kinds of games. I was playing different games, but that's how we ran into each other. And again, I think both of us followed our hearts. We loved gaming. We grew up playing a lot of games. I mean, I go back, I don't know how many people here know the old Prince of Persia game. I don't know how many people here have played it.
I guess everyone would have.
Everybody's played it, all right.
Yeah,
So that's how far back I go with games. That's where my journey started. And then we saw, we were in the US and we saw what an incredible opportunity India was. This is back in 2004, 2005. And we just jumped in. Bhavin was again the brave one, which is why the correction is very important. Bhavin quit his fully funded PhD program, dropped out of it, went to India, literally started our office. People talk about basement garages. That's where literally our office was for the first many months. Neither one of us could write much code. Neither one of us knew how to do game design. Neither one of us was artists. All we had with us was passion and a belief that this thing would work. And that's what kept us going. I mean, we ran into, I can't even imagine how many times we ran into situations where it felt like this is going to come to an end in the next 30 days or in the next week. But we just, perseverance, like that's what eventually kept us going and brought us here.
I mean, I know I've been part of the journey, but like every time I hear you say this, it's always so inspiring, you know, like it's just amazing because I try to start up my own and it's tough, you know, that perseverance part is really the key and it's you know, you just have to plug it away. Yeah. In fact, you know, the good thing right now, and I've been here for 3 days, right, what I've been seeing is that a lot of people, you know, just going ahead and setting up their own sort of small teams, right, and making games, you know, and all of us here today are living in this age of entrepreneurship, right, trying to build a company. So, you know, for the folks here, right, like who are looking to build one, right, like what are the core tenets according to you of building a company?
Listen, everybody is going to discover their own tenets. There's no such thing as you know, a golden set of tenets or one right way to do things. The most important thing is whatever you choose, whatever the way you choose to do things, and I'll talk a little bit about how we chose to do things, right? Like, be true to it, be consistent with it. That's actually far more important. As far as we are concerned, you know, I started out by saying that in the beginning, like one of the most fundamental tenets of our business has always been that it's not amazing people, amazing individuals, or amazing amounts of capital, or amazing amounts of ideas that build great businesses. It's amazing teams. So that's the first thing I would tell anybody. At least that's been our experience. You cannot build everything by yourself. You're going to need more people. You're going to need partners, colleagues, friends, whoever you work with. You know, you need to make sure that they fit into what your value system is, into the things that you think that are important to build a great business. Like, one of the biggest, I've seen so many startups fail because founders or people who are at the early stage don't see eye to eye on things. They didn't fully align on what they wanted to achieve. And that's super critical. And then as you continue to build your team going forward, ensuring that, you know, you can say the same thing, that we have an amazing team, because that's the one thing that will keep you going through good times and through bad. And then after that, I mean, we as a business, I mean, we have a stall here. The way we define our culture is what we call the science of gaming. And I'll take a couple of minutes to talk about what it means. But, you know, and the first step for us after you've got the right team, and again, this is an area where I think a lot of entrepreneurs fail, is that lack of clarity of goals. Now, it sounds very simple, but people really struggle on that. You know, what exactly specifically is my goal, and does the entire team agree on what the goal is? Unless you get that right, you know, it's quite likely, and in fact happens almost inevitably, that people are moving in different directions. And once you've set your goal, for us, probably one of the most important starting points in the journey to build a business always, and the kind of people we want to bring into our business, has always been user centricity, living and breathing your user. If you don't do that, nothing else matters. Like, you really, really need to understand your user. And this doesn't mean gut feel understanding of user, right? That's obviously very important. You are the user. But speaking to your user, studying data of the users, really understanding at the core what the users want, what their pain points are. And once you've got that, then we come to, you know, the true part. And this has actually been something that I feel has really separated us from the rest of the market. That is, we are extraordinarily scientific in how we do things. We're deep questioners. We'll question everything. We'll challenge conventional wisdom. Those are the kind of people we love to work with. We love people who'll stand up and say, why? And then why again? And then why again? And that are very, very objective in how they go about making their decisions. Trust data, respect data. A a lot of people who are in game development have fantastic ideas. They're bursting with creative energy. They play games, they come up with excellent ideas, and they want to do that. But at the end of the day, your game's only going to be successful if somebody is willing to come back, play it again and again and again, and pay you for your efforts. The best way to get there, in our opinion, is to question deeply, be very objective, respect data. At least that's what's worked for us. Again, as I started out by saying, right, different things are going to work for different people, but for us, that's been phenomenally successful. And last but not the least, there is no way you can succeed without pushing boundaries. We constantly push boundaries on what we can do. I mean, a lot of the content that Avin showed you here, there's a lot of pushing boundaries in there in terms of innovation, in terms of new things that we are trying. That doesn't mean it works. A lot of things that Avin showed you here, we showed you on the screen, doesn't work. It doesn't actually work. Some of it does, some of it works very well, and that's just life. You're going to try 10 things, 9 are going to work, and 9 are not going to work, and 1 will. But you have to constantly keep pushing boundaries to find that one big success.
Got it. I hope, these are, I would call them actually words of wisdom. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think as Thampy said, right, maybe you have to define your own core tenet, what you think would help you succeed, what is your core belief. But I think the key part is making sure that whoever is part of your team is aligned to that tenet, right? Like that is very important. Make sure that there is no disconnect there. And I think if all of you are going towards that one vision, then eventually you will get there. Just persevere and make it happen. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, right? Just also want to focus a bit more on you as well, right? What are some top 3 things that drive you as a person?
I would say just one thing actually, and that's growth. I'm constantly looking for growth. Every single day of my life, I want to be a better father, want to be a better husband. That's very hard, very, very hard. Be a better partner, be a better colleague, be a better manager. But most importantly, be a better student of human, and in our case, player behavior. My best moments, my most rewarding moments are when I learn something new about users that I didn't know before, that then enables us, helps us to deliver a better experience to them. That's growth. That's the only single thing I personally look for in my life every single day.
I guess that has been driving you for everything, right?
Forever. That's been driving me from day one till today. I mean, my horizons for growth have expanded, in terms of where all I'm seeking growth. As I said, I love human behavior, so beyond player behavior. I mean, eventually everything ties back to that. I'm a student of neuroscience, neurobiology, very interested in quantum physics, very hard to understand. But I'm constantly looking for growth, hopefully even spiritual growth. That's my mantra, man. That's what keeps me going.
Got it. That's awesome. Basically, just broaden your horizon, keep, make sure that you're always becoming a better version of yourself, right?
Yep.
Always just.
And it's amazing how much you can learn. There's this incredible book by Daniel Kahneman. It's actually a very old book. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's, in my view, a must-read for anybody who wants to start understanding how people behave. There's just so much, and by the way, it's not something new. This book was written decades ago. There's so much more literature on human behavior now. But for anybody who wants to provide great user experiences, at the end of the day, you want to understand your players. If you want to understand your players are human beings like anybody else. You need to understand human behavior. That's at least been my view, and that's how I've tried to build my journey.
All right, cool. Thanks for that. Let me just switch a track here a bit, right? Let me go back to something that you said, that when you and Avin started, you guys just had the vision and passion, right? You didn't know how to code, didn't know how to design, right? But you've still been you build teams, right? You started with a team of 20 and now it's about 800 now, right? So the question here that I guess a lot of people would also want to know, right, is like, how important is specialization? And right now we have a lot of, in the field of specialization, right, we have a lot of specialized degrees or institutions coming up. It's a very evolving game sector, right? So how important is that? And also, what is the one quality or qualification that you would be looking for, like if you hire someone at Games 24/7? And I know that you've actually talked to each and every hire at Games 24/7. That's how close you have been to ensure that the core philosophy of the company is always kept intact.
Yeah. Specialization is key, man. Like, it's just, listen, everybody who works in our company does what they do better than me. Everybody. I don't think I do anybody's job, I can do anybody's job better than them. And that's really the trick. When you're going to start, things are different. You have to do everything. I didn't know how to do design. I was not a creative artist. I didn't know how to code. Obviously, I could not code. But me and Bhavin in the early stages of the business, we had to do everything. Like, when I say had to do everything, we had to be involved in everything. Today's world, in the gaming world, like, as enthusiastic as people are over here, fact of the matter is, it's a very, very competitive market. And you need highly specialized skills to make it big in the gaming space. You're going to need, talented game designers. You're going to need really very, very creative artists. You're going to need talented engineers. You're going to need the data scientists and the AI engineers, who can not just help you bring intelligence into everything that you're doing, but also help you bring in substantial efficiency into everything that you're doing. You're going to need very rigorous, very analytical product managers and marketing managers. These are all becoming very, very specialized skill sets, and you're going to need all of them. Now, that sounds very daunting for somebody who started a business as only 2 people or 3 people, but I wouldn't worry that much about it. Just have your eyes on that. You're not going to be able to hire all of these people on day one. Chances are, if you're a game developer, you are the designer, you're probably the artist, you're also writing the code, and that's okay. But over time, you're going to have to build a team that has all these specialized skill sets if you want to take a shot at the big prize. If you want to grow and keep growing, you're going to have to build a very diverse set of specialized skill sets in your business. In terms of what we look for, obviously, Avin, you're part of the business, you know what we look for. But again, if I had to say a couple of things that I always look for, and obviously here I have a bias, right? Because that's what drives me, is the desire to learn. Is this person who wants to learn and grow is something that is most important to me personally when I am trying to get in people for the business. Are they willing to question conventional wisdom? Do they ask why often enough, or do they just accept what they're told? And are they analytically rigorous in how they do things? A lot of people think analytically rigorous and data is, just too dry. But trust me, like, once you start doing it, once you start uncovering insights, when you get deeper into data, it's just so much fun, and it's so rewarding when you learn something new about a user and then can go and use that to build even better experiences for them.
Got it, cool. So I guess specialization is important, guys, like make sure that, you figure out what you want to do and, be good at it, And while you do that, I guess one good piece of advice I would say, at least that's how we work, right, is make sure that you keep learning, right? You never stop learning. Make sure you're curious, not just about what you specialize in, but, what is in the end, what is the implication of that? How does it benefit the user? How is it going to help? And always keep questioning that, and I think that's basically what it is. But then let's also go to the other end, right? I mean, of course, I'm sure there may be people like you as well over here, eventually, who would really want to build their own company, budding entrepreneurs here, who may be or may not specialize in something or not, but they have that passion, that drive to, make it big, right? So, what is the one piece of advice you would want to give to budding entrepreneurs?
Yeah. man, entrepreneurship is hard. I'm sorry, like it's just, and it's one of the bravest things in my view somebody chooses to do. Because the odds are so heavily stacked against you. If you look at any objective data, the chances of an entrepreneur succeeding is just a fact, and hopefully everybody knows this, right? You're walking into this, whoever is an entrepreneur is walking into it with eyes wide open, is very low. The chances of success are low, which is why the passion, the perseverance, matters tremendously. Like you have to follow what you believe. But by that I don't mean blind passion. Again, and you'll find me, because it is such an integral part of our culture and what's helped us grow, you'll find me coming back to this point again and again and again, that always, challenge your passion, challenge your intuition with actual data and information. Intuition is very powerful. Most people who are entrepreneurs, who choose to become entrepreneurs, who become successful entrepreneurs, are people who have some powerful intuition about some need, some desire, some pain point that certain set of human beings somewhere on the planet are experiencing. They have very powerful intuitions. So obviously, you can't just disregard your intuition. That's what leads you to becoming an entrepreneur. But then that intuition has to be challenged. Like, it can't just be blindly trusted. I can tell you so often my intuition has been wrong. I know so often Avin's intuition has been wrong. Like every single person in the company, like intuitions are often wrong. They just are. And the way we challenge our intuitions is by more or less testing everything. Like we're fearless in following our intuition, in following our belief, in following our passions, but then we are also super scientific in testing them. And when the tests tell us that, hey, your intuition was wrong, then we humbly back off. And that, in my view, in our experience, is definitely one of the soundest ways that you can follow to succeed in your business. This is not to say that there are not other kinds of successful entrepreneurs, right? There are people who make big gut calls, make big gut calls without testing them and succeed. As a statistician, I would say, but for every one person who made that big gut call and succeeded without testing it, there are probably 99 others who failed, and you just know about that one successful one. So the best way in our view, as I said, to succeed is to follow your intuition, follow your passion, but keep challenging it, keep testing it.
Got it, cool. Let me move on to my final question, and then we'll open it up for questions, from the audience. But this one basically then zooms out, right? And we say that, you started everything, and various rounds of funding, I've been there, how that has taken place, and now we've got the latest round of funding, which has also given the company that valuation, which makes it a unicorn, right? But then, is like for the entrepreneurs here as well, and for you too, right? Is funding and valuation the end game? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, I can't speak to people over here, right? I can speak about myself. No, I mean, it's funding and valuation to us, to me at least, to me and for me and Bhavin, is the result of the game. What I have enjoyed, and this is what I have hopefully talked through most of my conversation here, is the journey itself, the journey of growth. And if you're enjoying the journey, and in our case, we have consistently followed the tenets that we believe in, the values that we believe in, all the good things arise. The funding, the valuation, they're the results of the game. They're not the game themselves. And if you're not having fun playing the game, it's just, that's the most important thing, guys. You got to have fun doing what you're doing. I have fun growing, learning, right? Whatever it is that appeals to you, you must have fun doing that. The funding and the valuation is the destination. And trust me, like me and Bhavin worked tremendously hard, and then one day we were a unicorn. And it was like, okay, what's next, right? That's how it's going to feel. Like once you eventually hit a big milestone. It's the journey that's really the fun part of things. For us, definitely it's been the journey. And I'm sure as you look back, you know, it's the journey that you'll recall with fondness. And if you're not enjoying that, just life becomes very, very hard. The other thing I would say is, you know, in that journey, and I keep coming back to this again and again, right? Like just have to be disciplined in focusing on what's right for the user. That's what's kept us going. Like in our business, you will see far, far, far more spreadsheets than you will see PowerPoints. That's just who we are as a business. I think at the end of the day, if your goal is to delight users, which is what it should be if you're game developers, then you really want to ask, am I actually delighting my users? Not that I feel that I'm delighting my users, not that I love my game, but whether my users love my game, right? Are they coming back to the game? Are they monetizing? If your D1 retention for your games is not north of at least 40%, ideally 45%, no matter how much you love your game, the hard truth is that your users don't love your game. And if your D30 retention or D7 retention is not in the 15 to 20% range at least, again, no matter how much you like your game, your users probably don't. And that realization is extremely important. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of game developers make is that their passion takes them with one game too far out and too long. You have to know, you have to have the discipline, the humility to accept that, you know what, I might love this game, but I don't think my users do. It's time to move on and do something else. Most of the games you saw up there, not all of them, but most of them, we dropped. We didn't hit our targets. It was very tough. You've worked 3 months, 6 months, 9 months to put that game out. You're super passionate about it. You put the game out. You know, you tweak it, you fine-tune it, you adjust this, you look at the funnels, you change this, you change that. The metrics don't move. It's tough, it's hard, it's brutal, it's painful, but you got to drop it and move on and get to the next game. That is the only way to succeed in this space.
I think that definitely resonates with what we have been doing, right? I mean, if I go back to the first question about whether funding is the end game or valuation is the end game, I mean, definitely, I mean, like you said, right, we did get that valuation, but for us it was, you know, fine, you know, let's just keep doing what we have always been doing. We've actually never even celebrated that fact, right? Like we just kept on doing what we have been doing and
celebrate the journey.
Yes, that's right.
I don't think we wait for milestones to celebrate.
Correct, that's right, yeah.
It's good to celebrate with milestones, but you got to celebrate the journey.
Yep, yep. And the journey is definitely, it's going to have a lot of roadblocks, a lot of, like you said, right, very tough calls to make. But I think the key message here would be that, you know, you guys should, everyone here should be open to making those tough decisions, right? I mean, that's how it has to be. Make sure that you understand the users and actually measure what the user is doing. I think, you know, gut feel is one part, or we feel the game is good, but you have to get to the numbers. There's no way around it, however dry as it may seem. I think that's what it is.
Well, those numbers are the way your users are speaking to you. You know, they're speaking to you through those numbers. If you don't listen to those numbers, you're not listening to your users.
Right. So I hope, you know, please learn from what we have learned, the kind of, you know, things that we have gone through, and I hope this really helps, you know, all of you on your journey as well. With that note, Thampy, thanks a lot for, you know, answering my questions. I would want to open it for audience, you know, any questions that you guys may have, please, you know, feel free to ask in terms of, you know, like how it is actually about building a company or anything about careers or anything, right? Yeah, please.
Hi, my name is Nalin Savara, and I run a company called Dark Sun Tech. I'm curious, what are the failures you experienced? Tell us about some or several of the failures you experienced during your journey and how you overcame them.
How much time do we have? There's so many of them. Let's see. I think for this audience, let's just take 2021. I don't know how many of you follow our fantasy sports game, My 11 Circle, but we ran I'll just talk through one. There's so many. I think it'll take me a long time to walk through failures, and it is through a lot of failures that you eventually learn and arrive at successes. We ran this campaign during the last Cricket World Cup where we got very, very excited about building a campaign that was based on, a marketing campaign that was based on patriotism. India's playing the World Cup. Obviously Indians are, all of us are very patriotic people. We want India to win the World Cup, and we ran a campaign which was, every time India wins, so I don't know how many of you here play fantasy sports, but obviously you go onto the platform, you make a team, there's a contest, you join a contest with an entry fee, and there are prizes for, whoever team does best. And so we ran a campaign where we said, basically that every time India wins, you will double your winnings. And we were very excited about it, that people are patriotic. We're going to find that bridge between patriotism and cricket and fantasy sports. And we were wrong. People are patriotic, obviously. People do watch cricket with a lot of zeal and enthusiasm and passion, and they want their team to win. But they're not playing fantasy sports because they're patriotic. They're playing fantasy sports for entirely different reasons. That campaign didn't work. But it taught us something very, very important. So that was definitely one. In U games, a few of the games that Avin's flashed here, and I think it's better to talk through in that case what some of our learnings were. So the games that we are building usually have, and most of the games that you guys will build will have a core component and a meta, right? I mean, a meta on a game is more or less a given right now. So I'm not going to name a game right now, but let's take game X that we did. It didn't work, right? And obviously we followed the discipline of, hey, it's not hitting the retention targets we wanted to hit, so we're going to drop it, we're going to move on. But the bigger question is, why did it not work? You don't just drop things and move on, right? What we in our company called why centricity. Like, you want to keep asking why until you just can't ask why anymore. And so we broke that down. Now, this is a hard exercise. We said, did the game not work because the core game doesn't work? Or did the game not work because the meta doesn't work? Now, this is a hard thing to test. It's not an easy thing to test. But we did it, and it takes time. It takes time, it takes effort, and one could be wondering, you know what, it doesn't work, let's move on, let's do another game. But if you don't learn, then you're going to probably make the same mistake again. And so when we did some of these tests, we realized that it wasn't the meta that was causing the problem. In fact, the meta actually does work. It's the core game itself that has poor retention. So now why is that useful? That's useful because if the meta works, now I can use this meta on another core game. If I didn't know that, the core and the meta go out together. They have no value for me, and I just move on. And there's so much effort that I put into the game that I've lost. Does that help? Is that what you were looking for in terms of your question?
Great. Yeah, great. I mean, that's a good answer. It also helps me understand how you think of things, because if I were thinking, I would think more in terms of the people and the gameplay than in terms of philosophical or statistical factors like you are describing. So that's an educative thing
Well,
for me to know.
the gameplay you dig into, that's the first thing you do when a game doesn't work. Like, we track everything in the game. So we'll go through every step in the game to see where the drop-offs are happening and then try to fix those. So that's a given. You have to do that. But sometimes, even after you do all of that, the game doesn't work. Then you got to ask the bigger question. Like, hey, what is it? What is it about my game that's actually not working? Our approach always is, failure is fine. We're not afraid to fail. we're afraid to not learn. I just want to learn every time I fail, because every time I learn from my failure, my probability of success goes up in the future.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much for your
That's
answer.
exactly what I wanted to add to. Like, failure is not the problem, right? It's are we learning from it is what it is. I think we are out of time. Do we?
We have one more.
Can we take one other question, Ravi, or like?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we'll take one last question.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Mr. Thampy, you mentioned about building great teams, which is a key factor for building. Would want to know what are some key learnings in building teams and maybe some don'ts. I'm asking it from we are into physical play for kids since last 15 years. We build toys for kids. We are now trying to move into the gaming, digital experiences for kids. And it's been 6 months since we are trying to build the team, and we want to know what are key things that we need to keep in mind when building teams.
Yeah, let me try with regards to your specific question. Number one, I'll always go back to user centricity, right? So if you're building something for kids, you need a team that really understands kids. Like, that's number one. If you don't understand how kids behave, how kids make decisions, what drives them, if you're sitting in some, hopefully that's not what you're doing. If you're sitting in some vacuum, having some theoretical ideas about what kids like, that's a problem. And even if your understanding, obviously, I don't know how young people are. I have 2 children. I have a fairly good understanding of my children, but in statistical terms, that's 2 data points. That's all it is, right? So the first thing would be like getting a better understanding of children. So if I was hiring people, and I don't know what stage of the business you are at and for what position you're hiring, but especially if you're hiring people in product or marketing or design, they have to be people who really understand children, like what children want, why children desire toys, what gets them going, and how their needs and desires are changing. Like, that's absolutely number one. I think this would be true for any business, no matter what your core ethos is. And the second thing I would say, beyond the other things that I've said, right, we tend to hire people who are obviously very, very scientific in their thinking, because we just believe that probabilistically that's the best way to arrive at success. So you want very analytically rigorous people. But the other thing I would add is, we do not like to hire rock stars who are not good team players. We always want to find people. I am happy working with above average people who are fantastic team players. I never want to work with rock stars who think they can capture the world by themselves. So if I had to kind of, as quick an answer I can give, like, those are the two kind of must-haves or must-not-haves that I would say if you're trying to, build a team.
All right, thank you, everyone. I guess we are out of time. We have like this big whole time's up flashing here. Thanks a lot, Thampy, for sharing those insights.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Avin.
Thanks a lot.